I got out of my car and saw a gas station with dim lights, making the empty streets look spooky. It was late, and I needed to fill up my car before continuing my trip. As I walked towards the entrance, I felt a shiver, like a warning from something unknown. I ignored the feeling and went into the convenience store. Inside, the air smelled bad, a mix of old cigarettes and cheap air fresheners. The lights flickered, making the place feel gloomy. The cashier behind the counter looked tired, deep lines on his face, showing that he'd worked long nights and had seen unsettling things. I picked up a snack from one of the dusty shelves, trying to ignore the growing uneasiness. Just as I was about to reach the counter, I heard sirens in the distance. It made my heart race, and I looked outside. The streets were empty. Curiosity got the better of me, and I asked the cashier about the commotion. He looked cautious and scared, but he reluctantly told me what happened. "There was a shooting a few blocks away," he whispered softly. "It happened at the market on South Bellevue Boulevard." His words gave me a chill, and I felt a lump in my throat. He went on to say that it started as an argument between two women, and then shots were fired, breaking the silence of the night. The police were still searching for the people involved, who had disappeared without a trace. As I listened to the horrifying story, I felt sorry for the victims. One of them was a 29-year-old woman who was part of the argument. She said a man suddenly pulled out a gun and started shooting at her. In self-defense, she took out her own gun and shot back. But what scared me the most was that an innocent 17-year-old boy got hit by a stray bullet. He'd been walking to the store, unaware of the danger around him. The gas station suddenly felt colder as I realized the seriousness of the situation. The thought of being caught in such a violent incident made me tremble. But this shooting was just one piece of a bigger problem. The neighborhood of South Memphis had been dealing with a series of violent incidents. Since January, there were 25 reported cases of serious assaults within a short distance. It was a dark and stormy night when I stopped at a gas station in Niceville, Alabama. I didn't know then that this ordinary stop would become a terrifying experience that would stay with me forever. As I parked my car, I felt uneasy. The rain pounded against the windows, creating a spooky atmosphere. I cautiously got out of the car, feeling the cold wind chill me to the bone. The gas station looked empty, except for a few flickering lights that cast strange shadows on the wet ground. Suddenly, a loud screech broke the silence as a truck pulled into the lot, its headlights glaring fiercely. The driver, named Thomas Keebler, got out of the truck with a look of anger in his eyes. I could sense the tension building as he walked towards my car, filled with fury. I realized that Keebler was consumed by road rage. He'd been tailgating and aggressively passing my car on Highway 20. Fear gripped me as I locked eyes with him, unsure what he might do. To my horror, Keebler followed me into the store, parking his truck menacingly in front of my car. Panic flooded my veins as I realized I wasn't alone. Two other passengers, one of them a helpless young person, were trapped with me in this nightmare. Without warning, Keebler exploded with anger. He lunged towards the passenger, his movements aggressive and out of control. Desperation filled the air as he tried to hit the person in the back seat, driven by an unknown rage. In an attempt to escape the madness, the third passenger tried to get out of the vehicle, but Keebler's violent outburst escalated. He mercilessly kicked the door, trapping us inside like helpless prey. It was clear that we couldn't escape. My heart raced as Keebler turned his fury towards the young person. With a cruel shove, he sent the defenseless child crashing to the ground. The driver, desperate to protect us, tried to intervene. Keebler was too strong. With chilling power, Keebler trapped his victim in a suffocating headlock, repeatedly hitting him with brutal force. Each blow echoed through the night, blending with the sound of thunder and rain. It was a horrifying symphony of pain and fear. As quickly as he had come, Keebler ran away, leaving behind destruction and broken spirits. The gas station now stood as a haunting reminder of the horrors that had unfolded, its peace shattered forever. The authorities swiftly caught Keebler, a man who was no stranger to trouble and had a long history of crimes. From driving under the influence to assault, drug possession to making threats, his criminal record was extensive and terrifying. He was a danger to society, both on the road and off. Working alone overnight at a gas station is tough. It's not just about staying awake, but also staying safe in the creepy silence. One night, something really scary happened to me. I was standing behind the counter when a man came up to me. Just his presence made me feel scared. He started talking, but what he said didn't make any sense. It seemed like he wanted to keep me talking, to keep me close to him. First, he talked about taking off his front license plate because he thought people could see it too easily. Then out of nowhere, he accused me of flirting with him and laughing at his jokes. I was really frightened, so I told him I laughed because I'm a bad driver, trying to ignore his weird advances. But he didn't stop. He kept trying to convince me to leave my post and go with him in his car. I felt really uneasy, and his words became more and more demanding. I didn't know if he was on something or just had bad intentions, but it gave me chills. I tried to stay calm and gave short replies. I pretended to be busy with a task, like printing the same paper over and over, hoping he'd get the hint and leave. But he wouldn't give up. It felt like he was driven by something dark and wouldn't take no for an answer. Finally, I gathered my courage and firmly said no, telling him I was afraid of speeding and had to get back to work. But he didn't seem to care. It was like he didn't listen to reason. Then things got even scarier. He whispered in a creepy voice, suggesting that we should stay in a hotel room together. I couldn't hide my discomfort and nervously giggled. I quickly told him I couldn't because I had a boyfriend, hoping he'd back off. But his reaction was unsettling. He questioned why I hadn't mentioned my boyfriend earlier, making me doubt myself. I tried to explain, wanting to move the conversation along and praying for it to end. Being a woman alone in a vulnerable situation was terrifying. I couldn't forget his menacing voice or how he ignored my rejections. It reminds me that darkness can find its way into ordinary places, and no amount of caution can fully protect us from the horrors of the night.